Alrighty, well, this was my grandparents' house when I was growing up. My grandma and grandpa Fournier, my dad's parents. That whole lot back there was theirs, and across there like that. Um, we'll go up here, we will. That was their house. In fact, both my grandparents passed away in that room right there. That's where they used to sleep, and that's where they both passed away. It's changed a bit over the years from what it was when I was young. Um, I'll show you here if we can. There's my grandpa's workshop. It's changed quite a bit. It used to be green and it didn't have that siding on it. It was wood kind of up and down boards, and it was green. That was my grandpa's workshop with that addition part there that's lower than the back part. I remember when that was built. That was built back in 1974. I was 6 years old. Before then, it was just the back part of it. But like I say, that was my grandparents' house. When I was a little boy, there used to be a stained glass window up there, but they put siding on in the mid-70s on the house, and that got covered up. It used to be a bevel board house, and then they put aluminum siding on it. But yeah, that was my grandparents' house. That was my second home when I was a little boy. That was my safe place, I guess you could say. Whenever I was in any trouble or scared or whatever, this is where I would go, And this was the place where I was allowed to be a little boy. There used to be a beautiful willow tree back there, but it got cut down in the 1980s because the children at the school here were cutting across the lawn to go to the store, and they were climbing it and whatnot, and my grandparents were concerned that somebody might get hurt, so they had to cut the willow tree down. But yeah, anyway, my grandma died in 1988 from cancer, and my grandpa's heart failed him in 1996, and he died in his bed there, right in that room right there. Yeah. And when they bought the place in 1942, believe it or not, the school wasn't here. This is Queen Elizabeth Public School in Perth. It wasn't here back then. But when they bought this place in 1942, this property, they paid $1,200 for it. And there's an interesting story there too. This was 69 Wilson Street East, Perth. It's now 79 Wilson Street East, but it was 69 back then. And the numbers changed because more houses got built. And there's also Wilson Street West in town, which also has a 69 Wilson Street address, but it's Wilson Street West. Well, the clerk at the town hall messed up when my grandparents bought this property. It turns out 69 Wilson Street West was also for sale, and it had been purchased by an old man. And 69 Wilson Street West was just an old shed full of junk. Anyway, the town clerk screwed up and got the addresses mixed up. So my grandparents were told that they now own this shed full of junk on the other end of town. And the old man was told he owned the house, and he wanted to keep the house. And so my grandparents had a tough time getting that straightened out, but they did eventually. Anyway, $1,200 in 1942, which was a lot of money back then. And my grandpa told me they nearly lost the place a few times because they had trouble to keep the payments up. But anyway, that's the story. Of course, it looks different now than it did when they bought it. It was kind of a rundown old shack when they bought it, really. My grandpa was very talented, and he did a lot of work on it. Plus, nowadays, too, it's been changed quite a bit since then. The people who have owned it after that have done a lot of work on it, too. But still, it's recognizable, but that's about it, Anyway, I spent a lot of time in that house over the years. That really was my home. And I really do miss my grandparents. And they were really good to me. They were really good people. This end of town, just FYI, was the Catholic end of town. Perth was very much a segregated town between Catholics and Protestants. And the East Ward, which is what this end of town is referred to as, was the Catholic side of town. Anyway, the West Ward was the Protestant side of town. And of course, the separate school I attended is just down the street this way, and the Catholic church and everything. But and it was pretty much all Catholic people that lived around here back then. There weren't very many Protestants, and there weren't really any Catholics living on the west end of town. It was very segregated when I was a little boy. It was still like that. Anyway, but the public school is here, though. It was built in 1949, I believe. This school was. There was a house over here prior to that. But anyway, yeah, that's just a little bit of history for you. Anyway, that was my grandparents' house. Anyway, where I spent a lot of time. All right. Oh, one other neat thing about this house, I should mention. I don't mean this in a racist way, but it's just the way people talked back in the 40s. When my grandparents bought this house, it was known as Half-Breed's Hall. And the reason it was known as Half-Breed Hall is because there was a family of Métis, which is half Native Indian, half French, Métis. And there was a family of Métis, what would be called Métis Indians, living there when my grandparents bought it. I don't know if they were renting it or if they owned it, but they were the residents there anyway. And like I say, so that house was known as Half-Breed Hall. All right, we'll talk later.